Welcome back to the channel. We're out here in Layton, California, where we just picked up this late 90s Yamaha G2 36 volt electric golf cart. This thing's a little bit of a project, but we're gonna fix it up and bring it back to life. Here's our first look out of the truck. This thing has got some solid bones and just needs to be cleaned up a bit, which is good because we have a limited timeline to fix it up and actually gift it away to my brother for our birthday coming up here. Got a handy tow ball, so we can do some towing around the property. Little flatbed that I'd like to be able to throw a back seat on, a folding back seat for an extended bed. Yeah, we're gonna spruce up this camo, get these batteries charged. I believe it has a bad solenoid that we're gonna replace, and we'll get this thing rolling. All right, first thing we're gonna do is get this thing cleaned up. We got the pressure washer out, then we'll pull it apart and see what we're looking at. All right, cart's looking a little bit better. I'm gonna get underneath the seat now and wash it inside. I already pulled the batteries out, so I'll get in here and clean it up. And I'm also gonna get underneath this bed and actually redo this completely. Got these covers off so we could paint them, and also get these backrests off, get those rewrapped and cleaned up. Cart is all scrubbed down. Also got all the rusty parts scuffed and ready for paint. I just need to get underneath it a little bit better, and then we'll get that done. All right, we got this thing on its side. It's not too heavy. I'm just gonna give this thing a quick scrub down and wash and clean up the rust. All right, we're gonna start with some matte black just to take care of this rust. All right, we got this thing back on its side just so I can take care of the rust underneath. All right, this is looking a whole lot better, so it's time to put it back on all fours. Inside cleaned up pretty nice, so I'm gonna swap the solenoid out and hopefully get this thing rolling under its own power. All right, well, I was pulling this solenoid and one of the terminals snapped clean off. It was already pretty loose in there, so safe to say that was part of the problem, but try and get this apart and we'll get the new one in. All right, out with the old, we get our connections cleaned up and throw the new one in. Alright, here's the new solenoid. I went ahead and cleaned every connection as well and added some dielectric grease. But I think we're ready to throw in the batteries and see if this thing can move under its own power. Got everything connected, key on. I have it in a forward and still not getting anything. I don't even hear the actual solenoid clicking, so do some troubleshooting and figure out what's going on exactly. Well, we got this car a lot further apart. I got the control unit open. We've been testing continuity, but I got a good luck charm show up today because it didn't take too much testing until we got the solenoid to click and the car is moving under its own power. So we're buttoning it up a little bit and we're gonna take this thing on its first test drive. All right, key on. We're trying it for our first test drive here. We're going in forward, it's in forward.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good thing to check. We are clear.
She is rolling.
Tires have air?
For the most part.
All
I
right.
think this one needs air up here.
All right. Well, son of a gun, dude, it's working.
She goes. Let's make a right. Nice and easy.
It's not bad, dude.
Okay, pick it up a little bit.
Well, it's got a little pep.
That's full throttle.
That ain't bad.
I think we're topped out right there. It's got to be about what? Over 10.
Oh yeah, no, we're cruising. How do you think it's gonna handle a bump?
I'm gonna slow it down because we don't have our batteries connected.
Oh, that's a good point.
I do not want a battery jumping out of this thing.
Yep.
We got a few things to button up still, but I'm really glad this thing's rolling.
It's smooth.
I'm stoked. Here, you try it. What's it? Cart's looking pretty good. Yeah, I think it's just because that front left tire is a little low in air.
That's okay.
We're ready for NASCAR.
Like a pro. It is the next day. Gonna pull these wheels and tires off and get those cleaned up too. Got the wheels off. We're gonna make quick work of these with some fresh black and get them back on. Wheels are all prepped, about to lay down some primer. Wheels turned out pretty good, but while I got them off, I'm gonna spray a fresh coat of black underneath the wheel wells too. Well, we've been zipping around on this cart and it actually feels pretty quick, so we need to do an official speedo test starting from a stop right now. All right, here we go. Let's see what this thing's got. Gets up and goes pretty quick. Ready, 15. 17. 18. 19. All right, I think we're topped out at 19 right there. That was fully pinned for a few seconds. Well, I still don't have the 2-prong Yamaha charger for this thing, so I got the batteries out to charge individually on a regular 12-volt car charger. But in the meantime, I'm getting the throttle position sensor and the pedal box button back up so I get this floor back in, and then we'll get the controller box back where it's supposed to be and get this thing all buttoned up. Pedal box is all back together. I almost forgot to reinstall the floor pan, so I'll get this back up and then reinstall this after I clean it up better. Got the controller box back in, and I'm just in here trying to loom up the wires and tidy up everything. Looming up the driver's side of the cart now, Looks like we've had more than spiders in this thing at some point, because looks like mice have been nibbling on this wire pretty good. This is 12-volt auxiliary power that runs back to this fuse behind this switch that powers 12-volt auxiliary to that port, and the other one obviously runs back on these wires to a port in the back. So I'll chase this down and repair the wire. Looks like there's damage all the way to the back, so probably just cut and replace this one actually, and then test power. Jumping up front now, I'm looking at the damage on the body of this cart. This is a fiberglass body, so it's gonna come with a few cracks, and the extent of it looks like this open crack just beneath the headlight opening, along with some of the cracks that will get worse if you don't repair them around the hardware holes. We got this major crack that runs underneath where the badge goes actually, so that one's mostly hidden, but we'll still repair it. Same thing over here, and then we have a large crack that runs from this bolt hole all the way across and then split open on the fender wheel well. So for these repairs, I'm actually going to try out the Flex products this time. We got the tape, we got the glue. We're going to try both, maybe the Wombo combo in some areas, especially this spot, and we'll see how it turns out. Okay, we got this thing repaired inside and out with the Flex glue for the most part, and a few of the major cracks got the Flex tape as well. I'm not sure if Phil Swift recommends using both as a combo, but once it dries, I think it'll be a solid repair. We're gonna let this dry overnight and see how it looks tomorrow. Well, it's the next day. It looks like the glue is dried properly and this repair is gonna hold up. I've gone around too and I've repaired everything I can on the body, but next I'm gonna start taking a look at this paint job, and I'm not gonna change the whole thing, but I am gonna add to it. I don't mind this camo paint job at all. There's some areas like this around the body that just need to be touched up a bit. I'm gonna add a bit more tan and just make this thing look better. All right, I got this thing out in the sun so we can get its final wash. I'm gonna scrub the whole thing down so that it's ready for some paint. Okay, I got the cart as clean as it needs to be for now. I'm gonna let it keep drying in the sun before I tape a few things off. But here are the colors that we're working with. Like I said, I'm gonna try and incorporate a little bit more lighter colors. Flat sand is what I'm gonna be using mostly. And I'm gonna start with a few of the trim pieces. These are the backs of the seats that need to be redone completely. I'll redo the front rear bumpers and then have the bezels out as well. I'll probably just incorporate with the camo. Okay, I got everything primed on the cart as well as the backrests and the headlight bezels. So I'm gonna come back with some matte black now. Got the second coat of matte black on. It's looking really good. I'm gonna work on the backrest now and start planning out our custom camo job. I have the bezels and the backrest primed and prepped. I'm gonna start by mimicking what's on the cart already with some basic shapes cut out, but then I'm gonna follow it up with some thinner and thicker foliage and maybe incorporate some of the California golden grass to give it that custom touch. This camo is not looking too far off from what I want it to be. I think I need to start with the lighter colors first. I'm gonna keep the grass at the bottom and then have the thicker foliage up towards the top. This is the top of the seat and the bottom, and then I'll apply that to the body where it needs it. Okay, I started with the flat sand, working those basic shapes in. Like I mentioned before, I'm gonna start with the lighter colors and work into darker colors, and then I'll wrap it up with some of the foliage. Okay, I started incorporating the greens, but also continued the original camo pattern. But from here, I think I can start incorporating the foliage and really bring this around. All right, the next thing we're going to work on is going to be the seat. And all I'm going to do for this is a simple rewrap with the serape blanket. These are the backrests already off their brackets. I'm going to take off some of the excess material and repair the foam. And then for the actual bench seat, all it needs to do is come off of its bracket, and I'll throw the cover right over this one. Here's the seat off of the bracket. This is actually in pretty good shape. None of the foam is damaged, so I'm just gonna leave the cover on that, clean it up, and throw the serape on it. And this I'll just clean and paint separately. Okay, I have the serape laid out, and I'm just getting some measurements before I make my first cut. I want to make sure I have enough material to wrap on either side. I have plenty on the tag ends, so I should be able to just make one linear cut and have enough material for the bench and both backrests. I got the rest of the excess material cut and my first staples in place, so I just need to follow the lines and keep it neat, and this shouldn't turn out half bad. Well, it's not looking too bad. I got it mostly lined up. Did the best I could on these corners, but I think I need to clean that up a little bit better and definitely add some more staples. This gun wasn't exactly getting the job done. I had lots of staples bouncing off, but I'm happy with the result so far. All right, the best way I come up with to realign hardware in the bracket holes is to just take a poker, heat it up, and we'll stick it through the serape. All right, we got all of our holes marked with the hot poker, and we're just gonna start throwing our hardware in. Nice and easy. Make sure it doesn't snag on the blanket. Start pulling all the threads with it. I threw a few more self-tappers in just to get a fresh bite on the plywood, but this really locked in the seat cover now, so I think this is ready to go back on the cart. It's gonna look great. Okay, moving over to the backrest now. I need to start by figuring out if I'm going to cover the entire thing along with this material or just follow along with the actual thread pattern. But first I'm gonna start over here by just taking off some of this extra. We have a few parts of the foam that are damaged, so I'm gonna repair that as well, and we'll get the covers on. Backrests got a little tricky, but they turned out pretty good. Moving to the back of the cart, this is the original little flatbed that was on there, just a piece of plywood with some carpet on it. I took that and I traced it onto another piece of plywood and simply cut that out. It's a pretty tight friction fit, but I think I'll throw some screws underneath and then finish it out on top. Now that we have the plywood in place, I'm going to cut up some of this extra LVP we had laying around to finish it up. Well, this isn't perfect, but it's as good as it needs to be as a working bed on this cart. Not sure if I'm exactly liking the look. It looks a little too clean on top of the camo, but maybe some wooden side rails would tie it together. We'll see once I got the seat all back together how we want to finish this out. The last thing I definitely want to address on this project is the headlight cutouts, because this rig has got to have some functioning headlights. So I do have a few options for that, starting off with the stock bezels. I found a 4x6 light that fits pretty good in there, but it does leave room for some sort of marker to go next to it. I started off with these cheap eBay headlights, but I'm not really liking the look and they don't fit in the bezels. I might be able to steal that marker from them. To supply power for the lights, I need most of everything that you see here, but I do have two options. Starting off with this, it's a voltage regulator reducer. It'll turn 36 volts into 12 volts. That will supply power to a fuse box and then over to this rocker panel switch so I can attach all the accessories. Option number two is just a simple little 12-volt battery. This I can mount anywhere, and same deal with the fuse box and the rocker switches. From there, I have a few options, some extra lights I had from other projects. We'll see what looks good, but for now, I think I'm just going to start with the 12-volt battery actually, because if I understand correctly, this voltage regulator will constantly turn 36 volts into 12 volts, and it can drain battery packs over time without a relay that leads to the key, which I don't have. So I'm going to go with what I know best and what's going to be easiest for now. Start with the battery and we'll get to wiring. I also wanted to bench test the headlights. It came with a few different colored wires that were unlabeled. So I just threw a couple bullet connectors on. I ran my black wire to my next negative lead on the fuse box. And then I just have my next terminated connection on the second switch. I have this on a connector just to test these wires. Starting with my smallest red, I have a sort of halo running light. Small green is a same thing but amber. Looks pretty cool. Looks like our next one is yellow. That looks like a low beam. White is definitely a high beam. Okay, so I'll be able to wire these headlights together and then throw the functions that I want to use on each switch. Okay, I have most of this wiring harness done for now. On the first rocker switch, we have running lights. Second switch is ambers. Third, we're going to run low beams. And I'm going to leave the last three switches open for now. So we're going to take this and we're going to apply it to the cart. Okay, I'm looking at mounting this rocker switch on the dash here. It actually looks like this warning label is a perfect template for this to slide right in. So we'll figure out how we're going to make a clean cut around that, and we'll run these lines to the fuse box. Okay, we finally have our rocker switch going in. I'm going to run the main lines up to the fuse box that I have sitting in here, and we'll run the rest of the accessories to both of the headlights. Okay, we got our wiring harness labeled and routed from the rocker switch power and grounds running underneath to the fuse box. So from here we can install the headlights and then get the battery and the fuse box hard mounted. Here I just mounted the fuse box and the battery up against the controller underneath the seat. So I just need to loom up the wires and clean it up. I'll install the headlights and make sure the system works. I got the headlights retrofitted into the bezels and all of the wires terminated and ready to plug in. So we'll get these in and I'm excited to see how they look. Okay, here are the headlights all together and ready to go. I added some body clips just to fasten to the fiberglass body. And from here I just need to plug everything in and we'll test it out. Headlights are all mounted up and they're fully operational. So this cart's finally coming back together and I think it's looking great. Well, I mentioned at the beginning of this video that this project has actually been a birthday gift for my brother. It's been a bit of a time crunch, but we finally have it up at his place and we get to see what he thinks about it. We just got it unloaded out of the truck. It's looking pretty good up here in the shop. A few of the last minute things I decided to do was get rid of the LVP and replace it with this camo boat deck, I believe is what it was. I also wrapped the steering wheel in paracord. I plan to do the same thing on the grab handles. And I still need to put the trim back on. And we'll probably do some tail lights as well. But for now, the headlights are all functional and They look pretty good. So we're gonna go grab him right now and see what he thinks of this thing. All right, here we go. Coolest thing ever. This thing is fucking sick. Oh my god.
The paint
Dude, you can actually drive this thing. You only need 1 foot and 1 hand. Yeah. You know what the best thing about this is? What? It works. It goes. Does it rip?
Oh yeah?
Well, that just about wraps it up for the build on this old Yamaha D8E. But we're definitely not done with it. So if you want to see this build continue and the next one start, then stay tuned on the channel. Thanks for watching.